All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. Where is George Kittle? We'll tackle that in just a second. But of course, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in the Bay Area. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week in both spots from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. And of course, this video brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up using the link in the description and the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to $100. This week, I'm targeting the Thursday night game. All right, guys, this is what I'm going with. I'm going with Chris Olave. It's Saints-Jags, by the way. Chris Olave, lower than 62.5 receiving yards. Travis Etienne Jr., higher than 63.5 rushing yards. Derek Carr, lower than 238.5 passing yards. Alvin Kamara, who's back, lower than 53.5 rushing yards. And Devin Lloyd of the Jaguars, the linebacker, higher than 6 combined tackles and assists. Good luck to you. You can do the same as me, or you can pick your own. Once again, Underdog Fantasy. Use that promo code Krug, and they'll match you up to $100. All right, let's talk a little bit about George Kittle. Where is George Kittle? We have a book out. Where is George Kittle? The Niners came into week 6 averaging 33 points a game, and Brock Purdy playing at a really high level. Christian McCaffrey, though, was banged up with the oblique, and Deebo Samuel went out with the shoulder injury, and the Niner offense stalled majorly. It wasn't a good performance by Brock Purdy. He posted a career worst 55.3 passer rating. The Niners scored just 10 points after the game's opening drive. 7 came on a drive that was set up by the Demo Lenore interception that brought him down deep into Browns territory. So what is going on with George Kittle? The star tight end was only targeted twice against Cleveland, finished with 1 catch and for 1 yard. And that is just dramatic less than stellar production from one of the best tight ends in the sport. And this is not the first time that Kittle has been underutilized. Over the past 3 weeks, George Kittle has been targeted only 7 times. And, he had 3 touchdowns against Dallas, but man, they got to use him outside the red zone as well. He's been targeted only 25 times on the season, fewer than, guys like Cole Kmet. He's been targeted less than Tyler Conklin. He's been targeted less than Jake Ferguson. You're saying, who are these guys? Exactly. That's the point. George Kittle is a star tight end, and he's an excellent blocker, but, it's not like they're keeping him in to block all the time. He's been out in the pattern more times than not. It's not like he's been kept in to block, so that isn't the answer. And, we know Brock Purdy loves to throw to the tight end. So what's going on with George Kittle? Let's take a look at his whole season here. Now, week 1, he had 3 receptions on 6 targets for 19 yards against the Steelers. Didn't score a touchdown. Week 2 against the Rams, they targeted him 3 times. He caught all 3 balls. 3 targets, 3 catches for 30 yards. Still no touchdown. In week 3 against the Giants, he was targeted 9 times, which is a lot, and he caught 7 of those 9 balls for 90 yards. So that was far and away his most productive day until the Dallas game. Then the next week against Arizona, he was only targeted once, and he caught it for 9 yards. But once again, why target George Kittle only 1 time? And then against Dallas, he was targeted 4 times. 3 of them went for touchdowns. He had 4 targets. He had 3 catches, and all of them got him into the end zone. And you saw him on the sideline joking, hey, that's production, man. 3 targets, 3 touchdowns. But then this last week against the Browns, 2 targets, 1 reception for 1 yard. It's not like he can't make, the big play. He had a 38-yard reception against Dallas. He had a 29-yard reception against the New York Giants. He's just not getting that involved. Now, what is the deal? I think initially the deal was he might have been a little bit dinged up in, coming out of the preseason, and they kind of know that Kittle is their, they don't have great depth at tight end. They tried to have great depth at tight end. They drafted Cam Latu in the 3rd round. They drafted 2 tight ends in the draft. They also picked Braden Willis. They went to camp. They had a real good competition, but ultimately They wound up putting Latu on the IR, kind of redshirting him for the year. Braden Willis is a terrific young prospect, but in the tight end position in this offense with all the shifts and the motions and all the intricacies involved is a very much a thinking man's position, and it's an awful lot to put on the plate of a rookie coming into the league and just trying to kind of adapt to the speed and the athleticism that he sees on the other side of the line of scrimmage to then be in this highly cerebral position where you're shifting, you're put into motion, and you're it's a there's a lot of complexity to playing tight end in a Kyle Shanahan offense. So ultimately, it was Kittle and the guys they had last year, Charlie Warner and Ross Dwelly. And Warner is a try-hard blocker, but doesn't have elite receiving skills. Dwelly, even though he's lifted some weights in the offseason and looks a little stronger, he doesn't give you a lot as a blocker. He's more of a hands team, special teamer. He's one of the, if there's 53 guys on a roster, he's 50, 51, 52, or 53. He's a back end of the roster, special teamer exclusively who can do a little bit as a receiver. He was a good receiver at University of San Diego. But he doesn't offer you a ton as a blocker. So they don't play him a lot from scrimmage. So once again, I think initially the plan was George is dinged up coming out of the preseason, but he's going to play anyway. And, maybe use the other guys. So there's been high usage for Christian McCaffrey and high usage for Deebo Samuel. And I think that's what you've seen. And Kittle has been kind of forgotten along the way. I mean, just to put this in perspective, Christian McCaffrey has had 110 carries and 23 rushes or receptions, I should say. So he's got 133 touches, far and away the most of any 49er. Kittle, by comparison, has 18 touches. I mean, 18 touches for Kittle, 110 for McCaffrey. So now here we are heading into, the Viking game, and we're getting towards the middle of the season. And I think you're going to see more of George Kittle, but they need to start utilizing Kittle. One thing that it would really help Brock Purdy quite a bit. Purdy loves throwing to the tight end. He threw to Charlie Kohler a lot at Iowa State. Last year, in the second half of the year, Kittle had an amazing run with Brock Purdy throwing him the ball. So we know, Purdy can look for the tight end. He can find the tight end. He can utilize Kittle and will. But to this point, it hasn't happened. And I think initially it may have been a little bit by design, as I said, because they had other weapons. I mean, if you watch camp this summer, there was three things that stood out: Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, and Brandon Ayuk. Those three guys stood out. So it's not a surprise that the Niners featured Deebo and Ayuk and, to a lesser extent, and then McCaffrey being the alpha in this offense. McCaffrey's been a borderline MVP candidate. But in the process, I think Kittle has fell out of the rotation a little bit and out of the rhythm of being looked at as a primary receiver. I expect that to change starting Monday night with the Minnesota Vikings. So, but that's really it. Other than that, I don't think it's not like Kyle Shanahan has designed, he's not like he wants Kittle. It's not like he's afraid to go to Kittle. And it's not like Brock Purdy's afraid to go to Kittle. I think it was a little bit where Kittle was banged up early and McCaffrey and Ayuk and Deebo looked so great this summer that Shanahan just said, hey, why don't we feature these guys initially and let George get healthy? Well, here we are, a month and a half in, and George has been underutilized, and maybe he's a little healthier than he was at the beginning of the year. I expect you'll see George Kittle heavily utilized in the 4 or 5 weeks ahead, really the rest of the way. The other thing to watch for at tight end is the 49ers. I think there's a possibility, at least, that tight end is one of the spots that they will look to upgrade at the trade deadline. The fact that Latu's done for the year on season-ending IR, you may see the Niners in the market for a tight end. The guy that makes a lot of sense is Zach Ertz for the Arizona Cardinals, who's played his best football already. He's 32 at this point. But Ertz is a Bay Area native. He's a smart player. He's a tough player. He's an ex-Philadelphia Eagle. The Niners are probably going to have to lock horns with the Eagles later this year. He's 6'5", 250 pounds. He's a proven receiver. He's a proven blocker. Ertz himself has 24 catches for 168 yards and a touchdown this year. I don't know that Arizona is going to be in a rush to trade him inside the division, but I could definitely see John Lynch knocking at the door saying, hey, what about Ertz? You guys interested in moving Ertz? If not Ertz, I think the Niners could call New England about either Hunter Henry or Mike Gesicki. Henry is the more expensive guy. He's 28, 6'5", about 260. He's a free agent at the end of the year. He's a solid receiver. He's got 18 catches for 183 yards and 2 touchdowns. Gesicki is not much of a blocker, but he's a big target, veteran, tight end, excellent receiver who might be able to be gotten for a 6th or 7th round pick from New England. So those are the 3 names I would look for at the trade deadline at the end of the month: Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, and Mike Gesicki. But expect George Kittle to be a prominent player starting Monday night against the Vikings. All right, thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy as well for being a sponsor of this video. And thanks to all you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.